So a lot of news recently has been about this big whole UKIP is coming back, UKIP is coming back, and it's like, I'm sorry, but given that the party has been written off multiple times, there's very, very little evidence to say that UKIP could bounce back into an actual full-on political force. So let's talk then War Plan Purple, which is being hyped up certainly by the UKIP media PR machine, and is being promoted by people like Sargon of Akkad. Now, here's the first things first. What is Sargon actually bringing to this party? According to him, he's bringing all this wealth of new media talent, and he can get the young ones in with those spicy hot memes. Except when it comes to politics, memes mean nothing. It's all about policy. Now, here's the thing. If UKIP does bounce back, all it will do is it will pretty much guarantee a loss to the Conservative Party, because that's what UKIP has always done. UKIP has been a constant drain on the Conservative Party. It takes away votes from the Conservative Party and no other party. There has never ever been an election, or local election in particular, where voting in for a new MP, where UKIP has played a decisive factor for, let's say, the loss of Labour or even the Lib Dems. It has always been the decisive losing factor for the Tory party. Why? Because, as I've said multiple times before, UKIP is a far-right party. Specifically, as we've talked about before, it is an extension of the as someone called it recently, it's the part of the Reese's Pieces part of the Tory party, which is basically run by Jacob Rees-Mogg and the rest of the people in the Tory party who basically want complete and utter laissez-faire capitalism. This is what the party is, and you can even tell by the fact that very often they've aped the most right-wing aspects of Tory party manifesto, and indeed they've even gone further on the right-wing manifesto, particularly when you had the big thing of the Tories wanted to bring back grammar schools. Well, UKIP wanted to take that even step further, and as we've talked about recently about their higher education policy, basically about 80% of all degrees would just disappear because they don't meet a certain earning potential, which basically would leave very few degrees open, meaning that you would have less of a pool for students to go in. And this isn't just like arts degrees, by the way, at this period. We are talking actual serious proper degrees, like English, history would go, you know, although yeah, those would certainly go. There's some maths degrees that could go because they don't have potentially hold an higher returning potential, which would essentially leave you majority with law, high-level medicine degrees, some business diplomas potentially. It would basically destroy the higher education system. So when it comes to this whole idea of, oh, War Plan Purple, we're going to meme the hell out of like momentum and things like that, and you're just like, hold on a second, guys. All momentum have to do to beat you is do what they are constantly doing, which is basically creating, hey, the Tories have introduced this policy. This is what it has meant. Let's take for the example that they've been using recently. There has been a 19% rise in violent crime. This is being overly due and has been sourced to the lack of, well, of police cuts and the amount of funding that the Tories have cut to the police. What did Labour propose? We'll increase funding to the police. That is a policy. That is not a meme. And that's why you will lose this battle, because you cannot talk policy. You cannot meme away policy. You cannot just get rid of it, because that's what it will do. So then you get on to think of what we've talked about before, UKIP policy. No self-respecting Labour, be they part of New Labour, or maybe they're part of, you know, Corbyn's new Momentum part of Labour, they are not going to suddenly go, I'm suddenly going to vote for UKIP, even though they are even more hard right in their policies than the Conservative Party. You are not going to convince people who currently vote for Labour to do that. UKIP were and always were a single issue party. And their biggest draw was that they drew hardline Conservative votes to their party, which damaged standard Conservative voters. So here's the thing, the more you make UKIP a viable party, the less votes the Tories have, meaning the more likely Lib Dems will get in and Labour will get in. So, and this is something that has been, you know, charted over a long period of time. If you don't believe me, go and look up, oh Christ, what by-election was it now? Oh, I can't for the life of me remember. But if you look up, Conservative loss, I'm trying to remember what it was now. It's something to do with UKIP presence in election versus Tory electability, something like that. I think that's what it was called. I'll have to try and look it up, but I can't remember if it was called that or not. But if you put that in, I'm pretty sure that's what brings it up. And it's basically this, I think it was a guy who wrote a blog looking into this and basically showed, hey look, every single time UKIP field a UKIP candidate in a predominant Tory, you know, backyard, what happens? The Tory voter, the Tory candidate loses votes on the majority part of the time. So a stronger UKIP doesn't necessarily mean that it will get in power, because this is another thing you've got to look at again. The problem with UKIP is that it doesn't have a big central focus. A lot of people are incredibly wary of UKIP, and particularly in the direction that it's going. Remember, you've got Nigel Farage, who says that their current leader, Gerard Batten, is taking the party in a far-right direction. Okay? And one of the things, again, if you want to look at the history of far-right parties, when they start to, let's say, downplay all the racist aspects, they tend to get members and do sort of slightly well, like UKIP have been doing. But what has Gerard Batten been doing? He has been encouraging on a massive scale the whole, you know, Muslims are the enemy type thing, and all the you know, the evil Muslim Tommy Robinson stuff that, you know, Robinson would actually say. So attracting those people to your party scares away, and this is, again, go look back over, you know, different elections, even the rise and fall of people like the BNP and, you know, things like that. In fact, there's a really good, there's a guy, he did like a two-part, he did a two-parter, and it's like the rise and fall of the BNP, or it's the rise and fall of far-right parties, or that's the history of far-right parties in the UK. It's really, really good. I encourage you to go and watch them. He did a really good job basically showing you exactly what I've said. These extremists in this will chase away any moderates or any, again, Tory voter or hard Tory voters, because they'll just switch back to the Tory party. So the fact that Batten has started to use this language and incorporate it into UKIP's platform, in fact, I highly expect to see a predominantly anti Muslim bent in their next manifesto. I guarantee you that is going to be in there. So that's what I think of War Plan Purple. It's not going to work. It's going to be doomed to failure. Yeah, there's been all this buzz about, oh, UKIP are bouncing back, but historically, I'm sorry, this doesn't work out well for the vast majority of parties who follow that route. You know, that's what happens. And here's the thing, if you want to look for a good example of why Sargon and his lot aren't going to do any effective work, look at the Liberalists that he set up. They did nothing. In fact, you've got many people who supported Sargon as part of the Liberalists, and then as soon as Sargon jumped to UKIP, they've gone, oh, whoa, whoa, why are you joining UKIP? They have no liberal policies at all. Good on those people, because that shows to me at least there are people in Sargon's audience who can think for themselves and who are aware of how a far-right party UKIP actually are. But hey, there you go.